Hey guys, how is everybody doing? And welcome back to my Evil Dead review series leading up to the brand new film Evil Dead Burn in theaters this Friday. Now, if you have not seen, excuse me, if you have not seen my other two reviews of the other two Evil Dead, I have reviewed the first one and the second one already, and I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on technically the final film in the original trilogy, which maybe there isn't really broken down into trilogies, but in the original Sam Raimi trilogy, I'm going to be giving you my thoughts on the final one in the Sam Raimi trilogy with Army of Darkness. Starting off with my positives on Army of Darkness, and the first positive that I have is just kind of the overall setting. I've always kind of enjoyed the 1300 AD setting. I don't know where it is, nor do I care. Don't know where it is, nor do I care. It kind of has a rhyme to it. Ugh. Excuse me. But I've always really enjoyed the setting of 1300 AD because it always just felt good to get Ash out of the cabin and kind of just in this new setting without it being, repetitive or the same, which pretty much all these movies and, Ash vs. the Evil Dead TV show, they all seem to find its way back to the cabin, whether it's the first two movies, the 2013 reboot, remake, whatever the fuck it is, or Ash vs. the Evil Dead, even when it has a nice little nostalgia trip when it goes back to the cabin. And not only is the setting good, I've always really also enjoyed the set design and the costume design. They really got the the costume designs down because they did a very good job of with the knights and kind of Ash's outfit when he gets rid of all the torn up clothing and then actually puts on a you know structured up outfit. So, if anything, it's more of the costume design. The costume design has always been really been like a huge highlight in this movie. I've always really enjoyed it. There isn't much to the set design, but at the same time, I do kind of like how the movie seemed to be open world in a way, whether it was like traveling through the forest or going through the desert, or not even a desert, just going through like highlands or whatever, and even in the castle, which I wish we kind of got to see more of the castle. But the small little scenes that you do see, I do think that it does look good. But overall, the setting and the design of the costumes or the set or whatever, the whole 1300 AD stuff going on, whether it's the costume design, set design, or just the setting, I think it's all awesome. I talked about it in my Evil Dead 2 review to where that in that movie, that's when Ash is slowly starting to become the Ash that we know, that big badass that we all know him as, and the one that's not really afraid of anything. Now, in that second one, he kind of is still afraid of the Deadites, still kind of freaked out, doesn't know what to think, kind of starting to lose his mind. That's when we slowly got to see Ash. But in the Army of Darkness, this is the Ash that we all know and love, that lovable asshole idiot. This is the Ash Williams that we all think about whenever we think of this character. Because not only is he just a badass, but he's also kind of an idiot and he's funny. Because there's moments where he's an idiot, where there's like scenes where he forgets what the words are before he picks up the Necronomicon, which Veranda basically causes the whole army of darkness. Yeah, you get it. The whole army of darkness to show up and basically try and find the book and causes a bunch of people to die. And not only that, he's also just freaking hilarious throughout this whole movie with his one-liners and his smart-ass attitude. I almost said attitude again. And his smart-ass attitude. This is the Ash Williams that we all know and love, and it continues into Ash vs. the Evil Dead, where he has that same personality, that same smart-ass attitude. This is the Ash Williams that we all know and love.
Hail to the king, baby.
Something that I kind of noticed for the first time, which I don't really know how, I don't know why I'm just now noticing it, but I also really enjoy how this movie has different forms of deadites or evil like spirits or whatever you want to call them. We're gonna say different forms of evil because in the other two it was mainly deadites. Obviously, that's what all these movies are. They're all deadites, I get. Which I don't know why I just said the first two. Which all of these movies are focused on the Deadites. That is the horror villain of this franchise, the most iconic one for obvious reasons. But what I liked about this one is that there was different forms of evil. Now, either it was regular Deadites. Obviously, you're gonna have Deadites, which were actually added in reshoots. And then you have to have these weird, like, troll-looking things, and then you have, like, little miniature ashes.
My fair lady, ha!
Or evil Ash as well, which could even be considered a Deadite if you really want to go that far with the, evil Ash pretty much being the version of a Deadite in this movie. And then you also have the skeletons in this, which I've always kind of liked that. I also thought the stop motion effects on them were also pretty good and pretty funny, which a lot of shots also have them as practical, but they lean towards more stop motion, which makes sense, which probably I don't know how long that took them, but it probably took them a while. But that just kind of adds to the differences of this movie, because a lot of the Evil Dead movies and shows are all similar. They all have their own that well, not their own. They have the same rhythm and that same thing going on pretty much the entire movie. And Army of Darkness, not only does it have a different setting, but it also has different villains and forms of evil. And that's what makes this movie always stand out whenever I rewatch it, because how different it is from the other ones, which that can be its own positive from its own. But the forms of evil in this I've also really enjoyed. And even Evil Ash, I've always found him hilarious, which is, well, due to his name, it's just Ash Evil. And it's freaking hilarious. And I love how Bruce Campbell got to play Ash and Evil Ash, which I guarantee you he had a blast playing Evil Ash because he was freaking hilarious in this movie. But I've always really enjoyed I'm why did I say always? But I really enjoyed that about this movie. They're different forms of evil, so where it kind of adds the differences to it, and so where you're not, having to watch an army of Deadites fight against Ash, which would be kind of badass, but at the same time, there's not enough people in 1300 AD to have an army of Deadites at this point. So, and I do think it's worth noting, I did not watch the director's cut of this movie. I watched the regular theatrical version, which I guess there's like a bunch of different versions of this movie. There's the theatrical version that I watched, there's the director's cut, and there's like two other cuts or something like that, like a TV version or whatever, which I'm assuming is just really censored. But I watched the theatrical cut of this movie. I've never seen the director's cut. I don't own it, nor do I know where to find it. But the theatrical cut of this movie, and something that I just enjoyed about this movie, is just how short and simple it is. All these movies have been really short and simple. They haven't been over 90 minutes long. At this point, they haven't even been over an hour and a half long. But this one is the shortest of the original three. And I really enjoyed that because it's just a short and simple movie that gets to the point very quickly, and just throughout the whole movie it just gets to the point. I really enjoyed that about this movie because it was just a quick 80-minute movie to where I could have just watched it, and I basically got to enjoy the rest of my night before I had to go to bed early for work. I hate being an adult. But now moving on to my mixed aspects, and this is what the movie is, known for. Now, the Evil Dead franchise is either fully focused on on the horror side or fully focused on the comedy side, or else it was like Evil Dead 2, and it basically tried to focus on both of them on two different ends, which I feel like that movie does very good. I also feel like the Evil Dead does a very good job on focusing just the horror side, but in this one, it fully focuses on the comedy side. Now, I will admit there are a lot of moments where the comedy is very good. I think the comedy is actually hilarious. There's times where I've actually laughed out loud. There's times where I'm like, okay, that's pretty funny. I was just talking about Evil Ash. She's a big part that made me laugh. There's a lot of funny parts like with the London Bridge and stuff like that. I thought that was pretty funny. But however, it gets to the point where I think it's way too cartoonish because it kind of reminds me a lot of Looney Tunes and Tom and Jerry. There's literally a part where Ash is tied down like from a skit from Tom and Jerry.
I can't move.
It like from like the little ashes tie him down and it looks straight out of Tom and Jerry. And to the extent I'm like, okay, that is just too cartoony, and I don't like that. But again, there are moments where it's pretty funny, and I do think that it works. But however, I feel like it goes a little too far, and it doesn't really work for my taste. But now moving on to my negatives, and the main negative is where the fuck's the gore? This franchise has been known for its practical effects, and it's you know big bloody scenes. Where the hell is it now? I do know the stories of that Sam Raimi actually shot this movie to be PG-13, but pretty much the MPAA hated him in this franchise, so they still gave him an R rating. But when you watch the movie, you can clearly tell that it was made to be PG-13. There's not a lot of violence in this movie. It's more cartoony. It's more kind of like, family friendly, which I don't like using that word, but it's more friendly compared to the other ones, and there's no gore. The only time that we get something that's blood related is when the guy gets thrown down the well, and then a huge pool of blood and like a geyser like blood just starts spewing out, and that's it. After that, there is no gore or any type of blood. Now I get it when your villains are skeletons and their bones, there can't be any gore, but you could have done something. You could have had them like ripping out guts or something. I don't know. I just wanted carnage candy, god damn it. But I understand that Sam Raimi wanted to make it PG-13, but come on, Sam. This is the Evil Dead. You're not gonna get away with making a PG-13 Evil Dead movie. Now again, I haven't seen the director's cut, so maybe in the director's cut there's something added, but I don't know. My one and the other negative that I have, and it's very small. If anything, it's a nitpick. There's this whole like war thing going on with Henry and Arthur. Like at the beginning of the movie, when they first find Ash, they're like, "He's one of Henry's men," and there's some sort of like battle war going on that we find out or something like that. And the main like love interest, her brother went off to this battle and he died or something, and she thinks Ash is part of it, so she spits in his face or whatever. I kind of wish there was more to that. I wish there was a more of an explanation of why King Arthur and Henry are fighting. Now, it's not really explained. And then when Ash basically gets loose and everyone's like, oh my god, he's a badass and he's fucking terrifying, he lets Henry and his men go. And because of that, he basically owed Ash and them a favor to help fight in the battle. And then after the battle's over, you think this whole fight sequence is going to happen between them. And then they hug and make up. Now, I do wish there was something added to that, but at the same time, it probably wouldn't have added much to the film. But I don't know. Maybe even if it's taken out completely, it wouldn't. Maybe if it was in this movie, and probably would have bothered me too. But I was kind of watching it, and when that whole sequence where they hugged and made up, but I was like, maybe there could have been something added there. But at the same time, it's not a big issue. But overall, guys, I really enjoy Army of Darkness. I do think it's the weakest of the three, but that's still not saying much because it's still a damn fun movie. The comedy can be a little bit too much, but it's still a fun movie. I really enjoy Army of Darkness, and if you enjoyed the other two, then definitely check out Army of Darkness. It's a damn fun time, and if you want to see more of the comedy side of this franchise, then this movie is definitely for you. So what do you guys think about Army of Darkness? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Is this your favorite of the original trilogy? Let me know in the comments below and we shall talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you love it, subscribe and notifications so you will get notified for all of my latest videos. And of course, until my next video, see you all next time.